Liberty House is not a hotel. It's not just a bunch of guys living here that are alcoholics and addicts coming and going and doing what they want. We run it like family. A lot of places now, the major treatment centers across the country are going long term. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, like, how old you were when you started using?
Okay.
Just a little bit about your story, and then we'll when you met Janice, and we'll just, let's just wrap.
Yeah, I mean, well, like a lot of people, I started young. I had an older brother, so he turned me on to like smoking pot when I was 12. And I didn't actually start drinking until I was almost 21, but, I just wanted to find out what it felt like. And once I did that, it just started this whole process of wanting to try the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. And being a musician, drugs were everywhere for free. I never had to worry about it. And, 28 years later, I found myself strung out on heroin and smoking crack. I had lost a house. I lost several expensive guitars, and the guitars that I still had were in the pawn shop. And
Except for one.
yeah, one, because I was still playing, so I needed one guitar. Even the guitar my grandfather, that I inherited from my grandfather, was in the pawn shop, and that's like irreplaceable. Well, I did the on and off controlled drinking thing and drug thing for years, stopping and starting until, my disease progressed until I had no control anymore. And we met right at that jumping off point, and I had been stopped for several years, and I had just gone back to it, and so she got to see me. She got to
So
see
you
me.
just started using again when you met Janice?
Yeah.
Well, actually, he started drinking right around the time I met him, and he was really festive. Actually, he was really fun, and I just actually been through a relationship with a guy that was a drug addict and had broken up with him a few months before. And I remember, see, part of this, I guess I can take a little bit of responsibility for, because what happened was, we were at this party hanging out, and I was complaining about my ex-boyfriend, and he was like a heroin addict, and I said, just once I would like to do heroin to see what it was like. And most people, a normal person would go, oh, you don't want to do that? That's not a good idea. He said, oh, I'll do it with you. The really bad part happened was when he started getting into the cocaine, because that's like the big trigger for him. He was sort of able to maintain some semblance of normal life and have a regular job all through this whole like heroin thing. But then when the cocaine kicked in, that just made it enable for him to do anything at all that was normal.
So it's interesting that the phenomenon of craving the drug didn't set up in you.
No,
but
it didn't
did
at
you.
all. Yeah.
And it's like she used heroin a few times and said no more.
Yeah.
But yet, let's talk about what happened with you. You couldn't stop.
Yeah.
What
Well,
happened?
here's the really insane part was over the years I made the connection of, because I had a cocaine problem back in the 80s, and I would stop doing coke, I had to stop drinking. So I made that connection that if I drank, I would do coke. Then I had that long period before I met her that I had stopped, and I thought that I wasn't familiar with the program. I didn't understand the progressiveness of the disease, so I didn't realize that the disease was still going. And so I thought I was okay after I'd take a break.
Because you could start and stop and have periods of time where there was no drug abuse or drinking.
Yeah, so
That fed your denial about being an addict.
right, so I didn't think that I was an addict. So when we started doing the heroin, I consciously wanted to get hooked on it so I could experience being addicted to something.
You became a heroin addict
Yeah,
full time. That was you.
yeah. I wasn't shooting it, I was just smoking it, which made it seem not as bad. But
Yeah.
the thing that really brought me down totally was going back to the cocaine, and someone taught me how to smoke it, and that really,
Oh, you were smoking crack.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that those last few years, it was horrible. That's when I really just, the powerlessness of the whole thing just. I realized one day I was driving my car on the way to work while I still had a job, and it was early in the morning, and it crossed my mind about. I was going through downtown, down the 101, and I thought, that little thought about stopping and getting crack crossed my mind, and then my other part of my mind goes, no, but I feel good right now. If I do that, it's going to ruin my day. And as I'm thinking that, my car is going off the exit ramp, and this terror kind of entered my body, and I knew that I didn't have any control anymore, and there was nothing I could do about it. And that's when I realized I couldn't stop anymore.
How did it affect your music career?
I was playing music with a bunch of different people, but I wasn't making any money, and I was happy to get like $20 at the end of the night so I could go get drugs, and that's all I cared about.
If I remember you being a very strong 12-step person, and when Brian was in the house, when did you find your way into a 12-step program for?
Oh well, I already knew about that from my old boyfriend, because that's when I first started learning about 12-step. Because the whole thing about him was he was sort of my education in the whole thing, because I didn't even know what alcoholism was when I was involved with him, and I learned through him what alcoholism and what drug addiction was, and about families being affected by it, and girlfriends and wives and all that being affected by somebody else's drug abuse, which is how I found 12-step programs, through that. And I read a lot and learned a lot about it. So when he was living with me and I was involved with him, I already had sort of a working knowledge I was able to go from on that.